All right, welcome to MySec Lansing. And this month we've got
Sanchez?
what's that?
No, sorry.
No. The race and a breach, real life example there. And then as far as announcements, I know that Converge, the CSP, is still open. I think that, what'd you say, till March?
Yeah.
Any other things going on in the community as far as announcements?
March what? Do you know offhand?
16th, 17th.
March 16th, 17th.
16, 17.
Converge.
Yeah, for Converge.
Oh, wait, sorry. May 16th, 17th. The
The
CFP closes at the end of March.
Okay, end of March.
end of March for the CFP is closing, and Converge is in May 16, 17.
Unless I'm free.
All right.
CFP opened up for GERCON too, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You want to say that? 'Cause
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah. So yeah, CFP for GERCON open up as well. So
I don't know.
yeah, I mean I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, the registration may be open for students. Okay. Yeah. All right. With that, I'll hand it over.
Cool, thank you.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to talk about the race that happened between the good guys and the bad guys when a new vulnerability is disclosed. Going to discuss a little bit about why they are disclosed, and it is going to set up the context to talk about a real life example that is going to be the Equifax breach. So let's go there. Well, a little bit about me. I am an application security engineer, a couple of master's degrees, one in information security, another one in intelligent systems, that group of certifications. And let's go there. First, there is like a complete ecosystem around vulnerabilities. When a new vulnerability is disclosed, there is like this race between the good and the bad guys. The bad guys trying obviously to get a benefit from that vulnerability, developing exploits that could translate into malware or open the door for malware to get installed. Those exploits normally are sold in the black market. And here we are talking about like a complete ecosystem. Let's keep in mind that the cybercrime is around it's in the amounts of trillions of dollars per year, or at least in 2018. Those are like the numbers that have been revealed. So the group of people that develops the exploit might not be the same group of people that uses them, and like the guys that use them normally are going to have targets are the guys that are going to go behind the private information, credit cards, or whatever asset they are trying to get from the victim, right? But well, in the other side, we have the good guys that work to prepare remediations, which includes from fixes, obviously, but not just fixes. There are like other tools, tools to monitor traffic, to identify if you are being attacked. Also antivirus, and to go more specific in examples, there are these Jara rules that are basically rules that help you to identify malicious traffic. The Jara community is very active, and they are pretty good to write rules to keep up to date. Snort, another very good example, it's an intrusion detection and prevention system, and of course the patch updates from the providers now. So now, here with great power comes great responsibility, right? Let's go into the example we are going to talk about today. The U.S. House of Representatives committee that analyzed the data breach we're talking about, they mentioned that this company was in they were performing an aggressive grow-up strategy. They were buying like other companies that owned important data that, together with the data that Equifax had, created a very interesting combo. And well, so that strategy was going very well, but unfortunately the systems were not ready for what was coming from a security standpoint, right? And here, like, I don't know, I think when a CEO is planning in a strategy to grow up, how relevant is like the role of cybersecurity in his mind or in the mind of the board of directors, the chiefs of the companies? Like, because I'm pretty sure like marketing is very important, human resources, finances, all that is very important. But well, cybersecurity might be more complicated. Let's keep in mind that most of the cybersecurity stuff are technical requirements. Some of them translating to features also that are kind of easier to see. But all this part of technical requirements can get more complicated. And well, this is the point where someone in the audience raises the hand and say, well, the CEO should involve the guy in charge of information technology. The guy in charge of information technology should involve the guy in charge of cybersecurity. But then what happens if the feedback provided to the chiefs is that a considerable percentage of the budget is going to go in cybersecurity, and maybe it competes with new features, products, and services. And here, the point is, what is the market asking for? I think the market is asking for new features, products, and services, right? Many times we don't really know how secure is a system when we are using it. When we go to internet and create a new account in that free website that offers very cool features, it's very hard to know how secure that website is, right? And same thing when we install software in our phones, or et cetera, et cetera. So it's very hard for us as users, as customers, to make informed decisions about what is the best software solution to use. In my opinion, the industry is a little bit immature in that aspect, but this problem is not new, and there are solutions from other industries, from the cars industry, for example. There are standards to evaluate how secure is a vehicle in case of a collision, and the vehicles get evaluated, the results are public, the consumers can check those results to make an informed decision, right? And then the cars that are more secure are costlier, but at least you know what you are paying for, right? And if you want to get the benefit of going for a cheaper car and you are willing to run the risk, well, okay, you can do it, but at least you are going to get the benefit, right? In security or saving money. In the software industry, I think it's kind of more complicated. But we should add a way to reward the companies, the software companies that are doing their jobs from a security standpoint, right? Because it takes resources, it takes serious expertise and serious commitment, right? Then, well, let's talk a little bit about the impact of the breach. 146 million customers affected. Now, all this information is available on the internet. I am just grabbing it and putting it here together. Social security numbers, birthdays, addresses, some driver's license information, et cetera, provided unauthorized access to information for nearly 44% of the US population. The population in this country is around more than 300 million of people, including babies and people that don't have a credit. So chances are, if you have credit, your data might be in the black market already. And one other impact, at least 23 proposed class action lawsuits against the company. Cost $439 million at the end of 2017, plus additional 275 in 2018, and only 125 were covered by insurance. plus all the cost to the data subject, right? Now reactions, I want to talk a little bit about some reactions just to get like a feeling about what this represented like for the community or for the industry in general. One, the data compromise was due to failure to install the security updates provided in a timely manner 2 months before the attack. Another one interesting that I found, they should have patched it as soon as possible, not to exceed a week. A typical bank would have patched this critical vulnerability within a few days. The Department of Homeland Security alerted to this critical vulnerability before it happened. Well, so we are talking about should be fixed in a week, should be fixed in a few days. Now, this is regarding the vulnerability. The vulnerability was in the Apache 2 framework. I'm thinking about this, oh yeah, a few days, a week. Oh, well, sometimes it's not that easy, you know, like this framework normally is a cornerstone of the applications where it's used. And to make an update might not be a trivial thing. Now, in this case, the patch contained only the fix to the issue. So if you were in the proper version of struts, it was going to be very easy to upgrade. But if not, it could be very complicated, right? I have seen like applications where you upgrade the version of struts and many things go red. And well, this tells us that it's important to be in the last version of the framework, right? And well, regarding the vulnerability. So struts, the vulnerability was in the multi-part request of struts. This request is the one in charge of uploading files. Like if you upload a file, this is the request you are going to be using. And the struts has like different components to attend different type of requests. So the vulnerability was in the component that attended the file upload, basically. And particularly with a library, OGNL, which is Open Graph Navigation Language. And so this is a very nice library. It executes commands, but was not intended to process untrusted data. That is what happened here, like to process data that came from the browser. Now, what the strut is doing with this OGNL is kind of cool if you use it in the proper way. Basically, they use it as a powerful mechanism to define error messages at event and class level. So it's kind of called, you can define specific messages for specific events and specific classes, right? What it does is like it creates like a stack of sentences, and based on that, it evaluates like in a key pair, it evaluates a key to know what message should be displayed for that event and that class. And it's capable also to perform commands. In the way Struts is using it, if you put a percentage at the beginning of the sentence, Struts understands that it's a command to execute. So as you can imagine, in the exploit, we are going to see a percentage. So let me go to trying to show Firefox here. Maybe I need to do this. Okay, yeah, not sure to this. well, I ended the presentation to go to Firefox to see the exploit there, but now my screen is just black. Okay, here we go. So let me make that like bigger so we can read it. Now this version of the exploit is not dangerous, but what kind of explains very well what is going on. So if we review this kind of quickly, you can see like it executes OGNL sentences. First, it defines the member access, the file member access. Then it goes and points like a variable pointing to the action context container from struts. Then gets an instance of this OGNL util class. Now look at this. Get excluded package names dot clear. Now in the struts there's a way to configure what packages you don't want to execute and what classes you don't want to execute. But looks like this is a way to clear those lists. Then, well, it sets the member access as defined before, and checks for the operative system. If it's Windows, executes a command in this way, tmd.x, then creates a process builder instance. It's going to run a process, and finally here it gets the output stream of the response and copies the input to that output and then flushes the output. This is a way like to get feedback of what is going on there. So with this exploit, you are going to receive what goes to the input stream of the process you are executing here, right? So you are going to get feedback from the system, basically. So it's a way to interact with the system of the victim. Let's go here again. Well, for some reason, my machine is incredibly slow. Okay, the black screen again. It's going to take a few seconds. Oh, here we go. Cool, so that's how the exploit looks. Now, I found these images from talosintelligence.com, and there's like very interesting information here. So it's basically the same exploit, but here the person executing or sending this malicious request is like executing more specific sentences. Here, who am I is asking who is the user. Here is very interesting also. We can see IP tables stop. IP tables is a firewall included in Linux distributions. Use firewall stop, and then there is a get. It's getting something from a website, then assigning permissions over it. And so here, this can be used to download like malware, for example, to this server. Another example, yeah, very similar to the previous one. So here we can see like very clearly how someone was like interacting and executing commands in the machine of the victim. Now, a patch was available. When the vulnerability was disclosed, the patch was already available, and it was very easy to implement, as I mentioned a moment ago, if you were in the right version of the framework. If not, then chances are was not that simple, right? And well, talking about vulnerability disclosure, there's like this question about should the vulnerabilities be disclosed or not, right? Because when one is disclosed, the attacks increase. That's why we need to be ready. But a study found that if the vulnerabilities are not disclosed, then are not going to be fixed, or the tendency is going to be those are not going to be fixed. I think it's kind of obvious. Like if nobody knows about the vulnerability, the market is not going to push for a fix, the users are not going to push for a fix, and the vendor or the provider is going to take the business decision of spending the resources in something else, like new features, products, and services, which is what most of the market asks for. Now let's go to the timeline of the breach. I think this was quite interesting. On March 7, the vulnerability is disclosed. That same day, a new version of Struts 2 with a fix is already available. And that same day, Snort publishes a couple of rules that help to detect the attack. On March 8, the US Department of Homeland Security Computer Emergency Readiness Team sends a notice to patch the vulnerability. This notice was sent to many companies. Next day, the vulnerability management of this company sends an email asking the teams in the company to apply the patch within 48 hours. Next day, first evidence of attackers exploiting this trust vulnerability. This was found later by forensics. Like in that moment, obviously the company didn't know about that. Now here just a reference. Qualys Scanner, in this same week when the vulnerability gets disclosed, Qualys is capable to identify the vulnerability. I don't know the exact day because, well, they publish the information weekly. But so we are talking that like the good guys are doing a good job. Like there are Snort rules already. There are security scanners capable to identify the vulnerability. March 15, the security team runs scans. The vulnerability is not detected on any externally facing systems. Now, here is worth to mention that the company applied the fix to a group of applications, but not to all of them. So in May 13, attackers entered the network through the Apache Struts vulnerability and dropped web shells onto the Equifax system. So until that, it was like the exploit was like to understand how to interact and how to deal with the system. And it's on May 13 when the web shell gets dropped in the Equifax system. And between May 13 and July 30 is the time frame during which hackers gained unauthorized access to the system of the victim. July 24, the corporative review renews the expired security certificate for the device monitoring ACIS network. ACIS is the application that was abused. The certificate was expired for 19 months. So I think, so this is a key factor in why this breach happened, right? Like the device monitoring the network were like not, well, the security certificate was expired. So they were not like providing the feedback as expected. So when those certificates are renewed, the security team identifies and blocks suspicious traffic. July 30, additional suspicious traffic is observed, so the application is taken offline. September 7, the incident is disclosed. September 12, at least 23 class actions lawsuits. We are talking that on Thursday, the incident was disclosed, and by next Monday, all these 23 class action lawsuits. September 15, CSO and CIO retire, and then September 29, an investigation is opened into executive stock sales that took place in August. So this is important from an incident management and incident response standpoint, because, well, this is not legal, right? And October 3, former CEO testifies before congressional representatives. And so basically we see like several things here. One, the application was not patched on time. Second, the devices monitoring the network were not like up to date. Evolution and new trends, well, more accountability about third-party security and dependencies, and this is not just dependencies in like in libraries or frameworks, but also dependencies like in other companies. Enhanced customer awareness. In my opinion, not enough awareness. I was expecting like to see some kind of revolution to tell, okay, now we need to know, like we need to evaluate the security of the applications that we are using. Yeah, I didn't see like an enough good reaction in my opinion. No benefit from business decisions, but affected by consequences. This is like the user. Sometimes the companies takes business decisions in their benefit, but when there are negative consequences, the users are also affected, right? Another interesting thing here, cryptojacking uses an easier and more anonymous way of attack instead of ransomware, which, well, personally, I prefer a cryptojacking attack where I can identify a performance issue in my computer and based on that take action, than a ransomware where someone else is going to take control of my hard drive, right? And crisis planning prioritized. And well, just now that we are talking about dependencies and all that stuff, I want to mention some proactive measures. One, there is the website, the National Vulnerability Database, where we can see the vulnerabilities that are known in different frameworks and products. And there are two solutions provided by OWASP that are very cool: the dependency check and dependency track. Both are open source. Dependency check is a library that monitors the vulnerabilities that have been reported to the libraries that you use. Today it supports Java and .NET, and OWASP is working to support more technologies. And in the other hand, the dependency track that does something similar, but it offers a web interface, and you can configure notifications, which is very cool. So like if one of your libraries has a critical issue, you get notified so you can take action.
Should also mention that in the Slack channel, we have an OWASP channel as well.
Oh, that's
and so we've got some memberships there. So if you're interested in OWASP or getting more into that, there's a lot of stuff in MySec that you can reach out to that group too, because they're getting pretty active again. So it's awesome.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And well, that's all what I have. These are like references and recommended reading.
So
And
the U.S. House Representatives Committee oversight, that Equifax data breach report is awesome.
oh yeah.
It's massive, but it goes over every single detail of what happened, and they didn't hold anything back. So it's brutal.
Yes, I think yeah, it's cool that the company was open to share the experience to help all the industry learn from it.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Any
Cool. So
Any
there are
questions?
questions or comments?
I can spell questions, right? Oh, that's 2 times. So, I have a question. What type of mitigations?
What type of mitigations or defenses have you seen be the most popular or most useful when it comes to this specific struts vulnerability?
To this specific vulnerability, well, there are rules, for example, for Snort. Like Snort is a free tool that you can install, and there are rules already available to catch this exploit, and were available since the day when the issue was disclosed. I think at the end, so when the vulnerability is disclosed, it tells like what versions of the struts are impacted. In my opinion, if you are using one of those versions, apply the patch. The best way to go. As a mitigation strategy, okay, yeah, be sure your intrusion detection and prevention system is up to date. Be sure your security scanner is up to date. But be sure you are applying the patch also.
Okay. One other question. When you talked about the Equifax breach and how their security team ran a scan and didn't find any vulnerable systems, does it go into detail more of how they missed that one server or so that was vulnerable?
I don't have more detail. I don't really know like what tool they were using. As I mentioned, well, these Qualys, for example, they were ready to identify the issue. So I presume that other security scanners of that level were also capable to identify it. But yeah, I don't have more information about this specific case.
Okay. Sounds like I'm going to read some congressional oversight reports. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, because that detail is in that report. It's awesome.
Someone give you a high five from the internet.
Cool, thanks.
No other questions?
Okay.
We're good? Yes? All right.
Cool, thanks.